Good morning. Hope everybody is doing well after all that candy consumed last night. You may have noticed a thank you YouTube short posted on the channel yesterday. A huge thank you to everyone for the support in getting us to 3,000 subscribers. I know the channel is for casual audiophile content in association with the magazine, but it has been a lot of fun. And considering the major hurdles YouTube makes content creators jump through, I feel pretty proud about the milestone. Anyway, getting monetized was also fun a few months ago, although certainly not a financial one. But 3,000 subscribers is wonderful. Please continue liking and subscribing, and let's get to 4,000. Today, a shorter video than usual, an hors d'oeuvre if you like, about the French composer Edgar Varese. Varese was born in Paris in 1883 and died in New York City in 1965, aged 81. Considered an avant-garde enfant terrible in his heyday, he composed music of startling originality, in its way as advanced in the style as, say, Stravinsky composing The Rite of Spring. He is known as the father of electronic music. Now, please don't turn off. I have a fabulous record to recommend to you with his three most famous pieces with no electronics in sight. Let's say all analog. Varese moved to the US when he was 32 and began his career conducting and teaching. Even though he later developed electronic music, the three works on this LP are early masterpieces. Arcana, from 1925, is classed as a symphonic poem for full orchestra, including 6 percussionists. Percussion became a driving force in his works. They're the main reason that this record is such a gem for audiophiles. The second work is Integral, written in 1923 for 13 winds and 4 percussionists, playing a large array of tuned and untuned percussion instruments. And finally, Ionization, written in 1929 for 13 percussionists, including the famous siren and other interesting instruments used for the first time on the concert stage. So with all that in mind, who do you think was Varese's greatest fan? In fact, hearing Ionization when he was young is what made him pursue a career in music. And it was actually his first record. Anybody? Come on, you know. Frank Zappa, of course. So to the record. So let's talk about this fantastic record. I've taken the plastic cover off so the glare won't be so bad. Get a lot of complaints about that, but I'm sorry, there's not much I can do for it. So even with this record without the cover, there's glare. Anyway, this is the fabulous Decca Edgar Varese. Some people call it Edgar with a D, but Decca spells it Edgar Varese. With those 3 pieces we were talking about, Arcana, Integrals, and Ionization. This is with the Los Angeles Philharmonic and the Zubin Mehta. A 1972 gem. I got this, well, my father got it on the London label about 1974, 75, when I was in high school. Didn't like it, didn't like the music, heard about 10 seconds of it, turned it off. And only much later did I think about getting the record again, because I'd heard about the Decca audiophile quality. Now I got a Speaker's Corner version, which is actually very, very good. If you can't get a Decca, although they're pretty available, but I'll tell you some shopping stories in a second. They're pretty available. The Speaker's Corner is very, very good. And it's available on Discogs, probably around 50 or 60 bucks. Let me just move this over here. Anyway, so I got the Speaker's Corner version, and it was excellent. And it was a fabulous audiophile record for about the first 5 minutes of Arcana. That's all I could pretty well stomach, and then I was like, really not for me. I didn't even bother with Integrals or Ionization. I mean, I'd heard of them before. I've never got to play any of them. I've never conducted anything by Varese. I did play a piece called Octandre, which is for 8 instruments, which is a wonderful piece, by the way, if you get a chance to hear it. But these 3 pieces, like I said, the side 2 I never bothered with, Arcana, the first 10 minutes. Now, the first 10 minutes is about the most spectacular orchestral writing you'll ever hear on a record for demonstrating volume, power, dynamics, the speed of lower instruments. That's why I don't like subs, because you need a super fast woofer to get the basses out. It's full of basses, tubas, and bassoons and contrabassoons at the beginning. And if you don't have the right speaker, it's just going to sound like a big load of goop. But the first 10 minutes is very, very dynamic. And then he puts in this kind of like march with bells and piccolos and drums. It's very interesting. And that's about as far as I get. Now, the performances on this recording, as I've got to know the piece, and I'll tell you about how much I love it and why I love it in a minute. The performances are absolutely fantastic. And in my naivete, integral is just for percussionists and wind instruments, and ionization is completely for percussionists. But Arcana is for full orchestra. And integral and ionization look very challenging, but percussionists are a singular lot, and they're usually professional percussionists are right on the money, the ones that I've worked with anyway, and they could probably eat both these pieces up in their sleep. But Arcana is another thing. Nowadays, probably not. But in I think it was released in 73, so probably recorded in 71. The LA Phil, a very, very fine orchestra, and they'd had Zubin Mehta for 3 or 4 years by that time, and they were really, really, they had a lovely relationship. They loved him, he loved them. The playing was always superb. If you've played any of their box set, the Zubin Mehta box set, which is now up to about $500 on Discogs, it's 32 or 38 CDs, and they're just amazing. There's not one dud in the bunch. Amazing. But what was interesting about this one, when I was doing some research for that CD box, I spoke to a member of the LA Phil who shall remain nameless, a very fine member of the LA Phil, and we were talking a little bit about the history for this CD box review, and he was telling me about Arcana and what happened. Now, this is, second hand, now third hand, so who knows. But it wouldn't surprise me. The Decca engineers and the producer, I think the producer was John Mortler, and then Mr. Locke was engineering. They basically did a paint-by-numbers performance of it because it is so fiendishly difficult. If you've maybe put a page of the score up. And for every instrument, let alone the bassoons and the tubas and the basses at the beginning, but the trumpets and it's very, very, very challenging. And it's kind of the notation is not, it doesn't occur naturally. It's not like Beethoven or Mozart or Brahms, where harmonically you hear where things are going, and melodically and rhythmically it's not too bad. But this is very, very strange, but wonderful. So anyway, they did a kind of a hodgepodge recording, 10 bars here, 10 bars there, 10 bars everywhere, and then they got a recording out of it. I can't tell, it's seamless. There's a lot of places you can edit, but it's a seamless performance. So let's get to the audiophile reason why you should have this record. Musically, I absolutely love it now. It took me a long time. I'm 65, almost 66. And there's been a lot of conducting, flute playing, and music under the bridge. And it's taken me a long time, but I've got used to the musical language, and I've got used to the sounds. And now I love this record. I always have as a record to have in your collection, but now I love it as an audiophile, I love it as a musician, and I love it as a record collector. And you should definitely get this one for your collection, everybody. I think the music will grow on you. So you'll play Arcana the first 10 minutes, and you'll hear explosive dynamics like you cannot believe. Some of the LA Phil playing in the small sections they're recording is so tight, it's scary. It's really, really, really good. What I love most of all, though, for what this record does, so you get the dynamics on side one, but on side two, you get imaging and timbre with all the different instruments that they use in integral and ionization. Woodwinds as well, and brass in integrals, but in the main thing is the percussion. And you'll hear the differences between, for example, a tam-tam and a gong, which are the same size. One is tuned, the gong. One is not tuned, that's the tam-tam. 3 different types of snare drums, a snare drum, a tenor drum, and a string drum. All sorts. Of course, the siren in ionization is lots of fun. But really, it's the percussion and their spacing. Vare was very, very specific of where they should be sitting or standing on the stage. And I'll put a chart up where he wants it, where he wanted the players. And it's spectacular. I mean, the beginning of Integral with the snare drum and the bass drum, and then of course the gong and the tam tam. It's so subtle. It's so beautiful. It's so precise. And the imaging is spectacular on this recording, and the timbre is spectacular. So that's what I would get it for. So you've got everything covered. There's a big Royce Hall soundstage for Arcana with lots of width and depth. And with Integral, you have imaging like you can't believe, and beautiful spacing and beautiful timbre. And then stay for the ionization, which is the party, which is the one that got Frank Zappa into music. So that's it. That's the recording. You can get the Decca. This is a narrow band Decca. It's very, very fine. It's not a first press, but I think these are ED3. I'm not a Decca expert, but as a British pressing, it's wonderful. The shopping story, yes. Because I played the beginning of the Speaker's Corner Arcana so much, it was kind of wrecked. So I gave it to my nephew, Ian Kershaw, who writes for Audiophile. He loves it. And so I wanted to get a Decca. So I found it, the first one. I think his definition was top condition, near mint. It was disgraceful. It looked beautiful. It looked clean as a whistle. But the record was completely wrecked. Then the second one, near mint, was not near mint. VG at the best, and I wanted a good one. So I actually got partial refunds, I think, for both of those on Discogs. And I found this one, and this gentleman on Discogs finally got it right, near mint. It's pretty well spectacular, quiet pressing, and it's wonderful. So do yourself a favor, get yourself that record if you're an audiophile or a classical music fan. Give Vare a chance. Like I said, he was the Enfant terrible. He's not fared very well in the last 20 or 30 years as music has gotten more out there, more outlandish. And electronic music has not really found favor after the 40s and 50s. But he's a wonderful composer, and not just with these three pieces. Fantastic performance, fantastic recording, fantastic music, and great for audiophiles. There you go. Long live Decca Recordings. That's it. Thanks. Have a great day. And again, thanks so much for subscribing. We really appreciate it. See you in the next video.